PSN's Motoring 95 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. And Midas, the way it should be.
Well, as promised, we're back with our brand new Subaru Legacies, the front-wheel drive with traction control and the all-wheel drive wagon. Now, we put on about 12,000 kilometers over the past winter, and the purpose of the test is to try and determine which vehicle has the advantage. We're going to look at maintenance results, we're going to look at fuel economy, handling, and probably the most important aspect, at least for Canadians, which one has better control in the snow. And what better place to conduct that test but on the side of a ski mountain in early spring.
Mention four-wheel drive and most people automatically think about the off-road advantage. Seldom do you think about the on-road advantages. The question is, how much of an advantage is all-wheel drive, and does it come at a price that makes it prohibitive? To answer the question, we've been running two Subaru Legacies over the last few months. The theory behind all-wheel drive is to distribute the engine power to the wheels with the greatest amount of traction. In a front-wheel drive vehicle, each of the front wheels distributes 50% of the power. In this example, 30 horsepower going to each wheel. In an all-wheel drive vehicle, the power is divided up amongst all four wheels, meaning that each wheel now only has to distribute 25% of the power, or 15 horsepower. The advantage being that the less work a tyre must do, the better it does it, especially when the traction is at a premium. Both test vehicles are identical from the front bumper to the end plate on the transmission. From there back there is a world of difference. The front-wheel drive Legacy is offered with traction control. Now, this system is designed to tame wheel spin by applying both the brakes and by reducing engine output. The wagon features an active all-wheel drive system. Married to the back end of the transmission is a transfer case that controls the amount of power directed to the rear wheels. At the heart of the system is a multi-plate clutch that is controlled by the transmission computer. Under normal circumstances, the torque split is biased towards the front wheels. When the system detects slippage, it automatically begins to lock up the clutch, which in turn increases the amount of power being sent to the rear wheels. This shuffling of power between the front and rear wheels is a never-ending process which ensures maximum traction all the time. Now, that's the theory. Does it work in practice? To kick things off, we ran both vehicles through our standard skid pad procedures. Both test vehicles came equipped with four-wheel disc brakes, complete with a 4-sensor 4-channel anti-lock system. Now, while the ABS functions slightly differently between the two vehicles, the brake tests resulted in a draw, with each vehicle requiring an average of 116 feet to come to rest from 80k. In the acceleration test, the front-wheel drive sedan had a slight advantage, with the initial pull being stronger than that experienced in the wagon. That said, the actual times to reach 100 kilometers an hour ran around 10.5 seconds for the sedan and just over 11 seconds for the all-wheel drive wagon. In the pylon test, we again ended up with a tie, with each vehicle managing to traverse the course in the same time with a maximum speed that was within 2 kilometers an hour of each other. The interesting part here is that the action of the all-wheel drive system remained unobtrusive and did not affect the feel of the vehicle. With the skid pads finished, it was time to see how effective all-wheel drive is in inclement conditions. At this point, I'll let the pictures do the talking. I, for one, did not expect such a big difference in ability when the going gets tough. The all-wheel drive wagon walked away from the front-wheel drive vehicle despite the traction control. It's not that the front-wheel drive Legacy is bad, rather it is the ability of the all-wheel drive system to make the best of a bad situation. In real-world conditions, the all-wheel drive system works equally effectively. In wet, slippery conditions, the all-wheel drive vehicle displays less understeer, was more predictable, and in extreme maneuvers it retains a very high degree of composure. It's safe to say that one day all-wheel drive will become as popular as anti-lock brakes, because it certainly offers as much in terms of safety and security. You will notice that there is no cost differential between the two vehicles.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
We're in beautiful downtown Banff, Alberta to put GM's latest sports utility through its paces. The all-new Chevrolet Tahoe is designed to slot between the Jimmy Blazer and the mammoth Arizona Cadillac, the Suburban. Now GM have high hopes for this vehicle. Are their hopes well-founded? We'll find out. Power for the Tahoe is supplied by the General's bulletproof 5.7 litre V8. This motor churns out 200 horses and no less than 310 pounds-feet of torque. Now thanks to some refinements, GM have produced a smooth-running engine that delivers on every front. On road, the power equates to reasonable throttle response throughout the operating range. Initial acceleration is modest, but once you hit the 10k mark, the Tahoe takes off, pulling strongly through 100 kilometers an hour. Perhaps the only downside is that your fuel mileage is unlikely to exceed 20 miles per gallon. Switching between 2- and 4-wheel drive is as simple as that, and it can be accomplished on the fly. Off-road, the torque gives this sport ute the power to conquer steep hills with ease, and if you select 4-wheel drive low, this vehicle will pull the skin off a rice pudding in one piece. My time off-road proved that this vehicle has the right stuff to get you where you want to go, and it does so in a style all its own. Helping the off-road capability are the P-metric all-terrain tyres that was specifically designed for this vehicle. The only transmission available is an electronically controlled 4-speed automatic. Now if you add the towing package, the Tahoe's true colours come to the forefront. When properly equipped, this vehicle will pull a 6,500 pound trailer with ease. The suspension on the Tahoe has been reworked to place a greater emphasis on ride comfort, the benchmark vehicle being the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Up front is an independent torsion bar setup with 2-stage leaf springs in back. As far as comfort is concerned, this design delivers. However, there is a lot of body roll during quick cornering, and washboard pavement has a very unsettling effect on the vehicle. The net effect? The Tahoe does highway extremely well, but forget about enjoying the twisty stuff on the way to the cottage. The brake system is comprised of a large set of front discs with drums in back, the whole lot coming with a standard Kelsey Hayes anti-lock system that remains active even in 4-wheel drive. During the brake test, the system worked to perfection, offering short stops that measured just 118 feet from 80k. GM get extra marks for the pedal feel. It is both crisp and easily modulated. When it comes to cargo capacity, the new Tahoe hits the mark. With the seats folded down, you get 123 cubic feet of space. Lift them up, you've still got 70. It also comes complete with a privacy shield and, of course, a cargo net to keep your parcels in place. The Tahoe is offered in one trim level with a choice of either cloth or leather upholstery. As such, the option list has been kept to a minimum. Standard stuff includes power locks, windows and mirrors, cruise control and air conditioning. From an ergonomic perspective, all the controls are laid out in a logical fashion, with the radio residing in its rightful place. As well as the usual center console, you get a flip-up writing surface, storage spot for your cassettes and CDs, and of course, the obligatory coffee cup holder. Elsewhere, there is a full overhead console and extra coffee cup holders. The rear seat environment is perhaps the best offered in a sports ute. It is roomy, will accommodate 3 across with ease, and as with the front seats, comfort abounds. The Tahoe has a unique safety feature. Not only can you adjust the front upper belt anchors, you can also adjust the ones in the rear. Now that's a first for the sport utility market. Other standard safety equipment includes anti-lock brakes, a driver's side airbag, and of course child-proof rear door locks. Well, that's it for the test drive on the Tahoe. In general, GM have done a good job with this new vehicle. The interior ergonomics are much better, as is the ride comfort, although I didn't care for the amount of body roll. That said, the biggest shortcoming this vehicle has is no all-wheel drive. When you hit the $40,000 plateau, as the Tahoe does, it should be an available option. It's time to update our long-term Saab. Now, the reason we brought this vehicle into our fleet in the first place was because of the perceived reliability problems that Saab has had in the past. Well, we've put a lot of mileage on this car in a hurry. Indeed, if we kept it for a year, we'd end up with over 50,000 kilometers on the clock. To date, absolutely no problems, and the bonus is that the dealership experience has been very enjoyable. Now, I attribute that to the Saturn influence. The other thing, this car from a structural integrity perspective is very solid. It's as tight today as it was when we picked it up, and unlike a lot of cars that it goes up against in terms of competition, it's not tinny. This is a very solid vehicle. In short, the Saab makes the grade.
We're back at the Talisman Ski Resort with our two legacies. Now stick around, because at the end of the program, Graham Fletcher is going to join me with his final thoughts on front-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. But now, as promised, we're going to head to the garage where Bill Gardner is standing by. And Bill, what are the differences, and are there any drawbacks from a maintenance point of view?
Well, Brad, anytime you add weight and complexity to a vehicle, of course, there are going to be prices you have to pay for that extra capability. When it comes to an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle, quite often there are some serious trade-offs there. Usually obviously increased weight, increased tire wear, in many cases more expensive tires to start with. The fuel economy usually not as good, and in many cases there are some service problems as well. However, in the case of this Subaru all-wheel drive vehicle, I think you've probably got the very minimum of price to be paid for that extra capability. So if your driving conditions warrant purchasing an all-wheel drive vehicle, this is certainly one that I wouldn't be afraid to get into. Certainly for the first 5 or 6 years of its life, if it's got some reasonable care and maintenance, I can't see you having to do anything major to this vehicle. However, in the case of sport utility vehicles, light trucks, etc., it may be a whole different story. Now, the Subaru is extremely well made. Everything is well protected, booted, sealed, just made to withstand some harsh weather conditions and the kind of harsh driving that an all-wheel drive vehicle typically could get. So this vehicle is going to stand up well, and we've had some pretty good experience with customers in my shop that have all-wheel drive Subaru vehicles and live on secondary roads in some kind of hilly, rough terrain. Been working on those vehicles on and off since about 1988, and they've stood up extremely well in spite of some rather punishing driving by these particular customers. And they've really impressed me with their durability. So I certainly wouldn't be afraid to get into a vehicle like this, providing, of course, that your conditions warrant its purchase in the first place. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 95.
On a recent trip to Barbados, Motoring 95 had the opportunity to revisit Bill Mallalieu, the proprietor of the Mallalieu Motor Collection. Bill has 2 new additions, including this Bentley Roadster.
It's a special to me because it was made by the Mallalieu Motor Company, so we share the same name. Basically, it is a Bentley. It's a Mark VI Bentley. The chassis and engine is 1950, standard Bentley Mark VI. The body was thrown away, and this body was built specially to order. The Mallalieu Company made 19 of them in the early 70s, up to the time that Mallalieu died in 1976. So they're very rare, but they're particularly good. They have the standard Bentley engine and chassis and a particularly well-built body. So basically it's exactly as it was made, exactly as it left the Mallalieu works in 1973. It's only done 7,000 miles, so it is absolutely like new. Rose had to approve the Mallalieu specials. It is the only special that has the Mallalieu M instead of the Bentley B on it, and the instruments have an M instead of the Bentley B, although they're the same exact instruments as you would find in a Bentley. So they did approve of the Mallalieu version of it. To start this car, first of all, you set the mixture control, you open the throttle a little bit, you then switch on the ignition, and then you switch on the fuel pumps. Then you press the starter, and it's away.
Bill also brought out this 1947 Prince Bernhard Mark VI Bentley, named after the Prince of the Netherlands.
And I found it derelict in Port Huron, Michigan. It having been owned by someone from Sarnia. I bought it from him, and it was shipped to Barbados and completely restored here, stripped down to pieces and completely rebuilt. It is unique in that it is the only one ever made. It's a Vandenpla convertible body on a Mark 6 chassis, and it is the only one made to this specification. There is not another one like it. Same engine, it's the same 4.25 litre Bentley engine, same as the other car.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns the need for periodic visual inspection of your vehicle's radiator. Now, just the other day, a customer brought an '88 Mustang in complaining of a severe overheating condition. Now, as a preliminary, he'd already checked his coolant level, made sure that it was full and clean, and he'd also inspected his electric engine cooling fan and verified that it was running when it should be. And that's a good preliminary investigation. However, he hadn't noticed that his car's radiator, the original rad in that '88 car, had pretty well disintegrated. You can see the whole lower extremity of this radiator is just eaten away. The fins have all fallen out of it. This is a more normal look to it up in this area here. However, closer inspection revealed that there was some severe problems up here as well. In any case, this car needed a new or record radiator to repair the problem. This '89 Buick had a somewhat similar problem. The owner complained of noise every time the electric engine cooling fan cut in. Closer inspection revealed that a number of the fins had fallen out of the radiator and become tangled around the fan blades. In any case, a periodic inspection will pick up these kind of defects. It's something that you should think about having done at least once a year just before the onset of hot weather. That's your Midas tip of the week.
Off-Road Corner with Cam McCrae, brought to you by Land Rover, makers of Range Rover, Discovery, and Defender.
In our last segment, you watched us get unstuck with the help of a high-lift jack. This week, a little more about jacks in general. This one is a bottle jack. Could be hydraulic or a screw type. They're good, they're strong, but they're a little on the tall side. Hard to get them in underneath where they can do the most good if you're stuck off-road. This one is known as a scissors jack. It's a little lower, get in underneath with it, but most of the scissors jacks that come with contemporary vehicles are weak and they're only good for roadside emergencies. This one came out of a brand new pickup truck, but you might be able to find one at a wrecking yard. But the granddaddy of them all is this one, known variously as the lift-all, the jack-all, the off-roader's jack, the sheepherder's jack, even the house mover's jack. This one is a brute, but it's got a problem. For all its strength, it's designed to be a bumper jack. Now this stout Land Rover has got a good, strong bumper. But many contemporary 4x4s, like an Explorer or a Grand Cherokee, would not take kindly to having their bumpers yanked on by something like this. So we've got a system whereby you can use the lift-all jack with a modern 4x4. We've taken a good strong piece of chain and we've added good sized hooks to each end. We can take those hooks, put them up underneath the vehicle and tag onto a piece of frame or a strong bumper mount. Then we lead the chain back up and we've added an openable link to this convenient hole in the jack. Hook the chain on, close up the link, and then pad the chain with a towel or an old coat. And then we've added a 2x4 for just a little more cushioning. And then away we go, and there's no damage to the bumper. Your Land Rover Canada off-road tip of the week. When you get out of the vehicle to see how stuck you really are, leave the keys inside. Don't take them out, drop them in the mud, and really compound the problem. For the Off-Road Corner, I'm Cam McCrae.
What does buying a microwave oven have to do with buying a new car? Well, not much. One of my pet peeves next on Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
You go to the store and buy a nice new microwave oven and the sales guy says that'll be $249.95 plus tax, and you say fine. Then he says, oh, by the way, I'm going to open that box and polish it up a bit with a rag and that'll cost you an extra $10. And then he says, oh yeah, and it costs us $7 to ship it from the factory, so you got to pay extra for that. What's your reaction? Well, after you stop laughing, you stomp out of the store. But you come to a car dealership, and that's the treatment you get. You pay $20, $30, $50,000 for a car, and then they say, well, there'll be an extra $500 for pre-delivery inspection. What's that mean? Well, some teenager slaps on the wheel covers and washes the car. Now, all I'm hearing from the car companies these days is quality, quality, quality. We got inspectors here, we got inspectors there. So what's left to inspect at the dealership? And why should you pay extra for it? And then there's freight. Again, why should you pay the freight? You should pardon the expression. Now, most of the domestic car dealers have equalized freight across the country. Now, I guess that's to help national unity or something. But when you buy a Chevy pickup truck in Oshawa where they're built and you pay $750 freight? What kind of deal is that? But my favorite is the so-called factory drive-away. This is where the dealers come to the factory and drive the cars back to their stores. And then they charge your freight for them. And it's a used car. Now, I know the car makers are all looking to get a low advertised price, but they're also trying to eliminate irritants to consumers in the showroom, and this is one of the favorites. Why should you have to pay extra for these things? If they are real costs, they should be built into the price of the product, just like they are in my new microwave. I'm Jim Kennedy.
Well, I know of at least two guys who don't have the sense enough to come in from out of the rain, and you are looking at them. But believe it or not, there is method to our madness. We've come to the end of the program, and Graham would like to have a few final thoughts on front-wheel drive versus the all-wheel drive.
Absolutely. You know, going into the test, I realized that all-wheel drive was going to be the winner, but what I didn't realize was how big a winner it was going to be. It does its thing, totally undetectable to the driver, and yet the instant you need it, it's there. On a grey day like today, when the roads are very wet and very slippery, the all-wheel drive will get you home safely. And you know, it comes at a penalty of about 3 to 5% in gas mileage, and that's it.
Isn't this very English weather?
Absolutely. All Englishmen have got webbed feet. You didn't know that?
It's hard to believe this man makes a living driving cars. It's scary. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars
and the people who drive them.
TSN's Motoring 95 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. And Midas, the way it should be.
Motoring 95 test drives the 7 most popular minivans in North America. Graham Fletcher evaluates performance, versatility, and safety. Bill Gardner examines each van top to bottom, front to back, and under the hood. Jim Kenzie covers showroom savvy, the demonstrator, buying or leasing, options, and much more. We'll also compare fuel economy, safety features, warranties, replacing parts, and recall history. For your copy of this exclusive comparison video, send check or money order to Motoring 95, P.O. Box 130, Station A, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H7L1, or call 1-800-340-7607.